Only 3 days into the new year, and the Nets have already lost twice, both, in fact, in blowout fashion without their number one scorer, Michael Porter Jr., on the court. Does this ensure the tank is in place and there is no playoff push? Or could there still be an outside chance? We get to break all that down and so much more, as well as reacting to both the Rockets and Wizards games from January 1st and 2nd. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the Brooklyn Boys Show, your number one stop for all things Nets related content. Hit subscribe as we get you rolling. Saturday, January 3rd is the date. Appreciate you spending your evening with us. I know a lot of us, especially my age, going back to school and work Monday morning, coming off the break. So there is a lot on the plates of a lot of people. For the Brooklyn Nets, it is figuring out what to do moving forward with the future of this franchise. Good to be back in my home as vacation is over. It was great up in the grand state of Maine, but we are back in Brooklyn and back in business, baby. Right back to everyday content. So hit like and subscribe so you stay in the loop with all of that, and can't wait to get so much more to you guys. All right, let's start January 1st. It was New Year's Day. The Nets took on the Rockets, and let's just say this thing was uncompetitive from the get-go. It was 120-96 the finish. Houston got off to a very hot 12-2 start. From there, they really didn't look back. Expanded the lead up to 11 at the half. From there, it was a strong third quarter that really put things out of reach, and an uncompetitive fourth that was garbage time by all means for both teams. So when you play an uncompetitive fourth quarter, there's not many positives to bring along. Cam Thomas is the leading scorer, and then he gets sat the next day due to injury management. So, yeah, we'll talk about all that and more. Like, are the Nets faking injuries at this point? I don't know faking, but injury management looked like Cam Thomas was fine to me when he dropped 21 points against the Houston Rockets. Didn't look like he needed any injury management to me. We'll see, though. Nets take on the Nuggets tomorrow afternoon. That's part of a very, very busy January schedule, I'll have you know. The Nets play 17 games in January. That's tied for the most in the NBA, a majority of which will be coming on the road. So, big test for the rookies. They get acclimated to an early road trip or two. A big test for the vets to see who's able to stay healthy, who's able to continue to raise their trade stock, and a big test for this coaching staff and for the team as a whole to see how they can battle through adversity and if there's good building blocks to look forward to next year. So very, very important month of January, but did not get up to a hot start. You lose by 24 points at home on a holiday, and no MPJ, no Yegor Gioman, and no Terrence Mann. So no MPJ, no Gioman is exactly where you need to stop to realize why the Brooklyn Nets lost this game. Basically, with no MPJ, there's no offense, is the bottom line that you can take away. If I could tell you one sentence today, no MPJ, no offense. Because you see in both of these matchups with both the Rockets and the Wizards, 2 nights of a back-to-back, that the Nets are notoriously bad on back-to-backs, and these past 2 days have just further proved that point. No Michael Porter Jr., the Nets can't score. And I cannot wait to break down this Wizards game with you all. Of a very, very fun graph to get into the nitty gritty of how this basketball team operates without Michael Porter Jr. But it's really, really interesting because the game plan flips upside down when you don't have your number one scorer. And you'll see it in Washington when the Nets didn't have their two best scorers, as Cam Thomas again was also out with injury management. The Nets cannot do anything. I don't think there's a simpler way to put it. The Brooklyn Nets cannot run an offense when MPJ nor Cam Thomas are out there. This is a team that is very, very reliant on a number one scorer to be there for them. Sure, there are role players on this team that are able to knock down shots when you need them to. Yegor Gioman's one of them. He was out against Houston. But oftentimes with this Nets team, it is a very, very streaky and off and on squad. And that's another reason why I think the tank is pretty solidified at this point and that they're not going to make another push for the play-in. when you have a team that's this streaky, I don't think there's really anyone you can point to off the bench, maybe besides Dayron Sharp, who's obviously not a three-point shooter, and say, you will give me solid production tonight. I really don't think there is that guy for the Brooklyn Nets right now. And that's a big, big hole when you're looking at, or rather talking about a team that might make a push for a play-in spot. Remember, you're probably not going to win anything in the plan. Even if you do, you're probably not touching either the Knicks or the Pistons. You're lucky if you force 5 games. You're lucky if you don't get swept immediately. And this Nets offense runs through one person. And there is no consistent depth on this team. I think it is time to throw away the play-in narrative. We had a very, very fun month of December. This Nets team got streaky, as I mentioned before. They got hot. They beat teams that they can beat. You flip the page to January. They play 7 more games, or I think it's 6 more games. You play much tougher opponents, and these are the results you're going to come out with, whether you like it or not. So, no key 3 for the Nets. The key 3 were there, however, for the Houston Rockets. Alperen Şengün, Amen Thompson, and Kevin Durant, all with 20-plus points. They were amazing. They were amazing. It's really, really fun to see an away team put on an offensive clinic. And I'm not saying it's really fun to watch the Nets lose, but when you watch a well-run offense, you know what it looks like. And to me, the Houston Rockets offense really stood out as that. They had good ball movement. They had a clear foundation. If you wanted to hit it inside, you're going to Şengün. If you wanted a bucket from anywhere, you're going to Durant. If you want a guy who can space the floor, who can do everything, who is athletic, who's versatile, you go to Thompson. And even then, they still had guys popping off their bench, contributing solid minutes. They still have Reed Shepherds and guys like that who are able to give them very, very solid minutes. Dorian Finney-Smith didn't exactly play well, but I had to shout out the former Net while we were on the topic. Overall, I'm not surprised that the Nets lost to Houston, especially because they're tanking with 3 of their best players out. But come on. What I always say is I don't care who is on the floor. If you're wearing an Nets jersey, you have to give this team effort. You have to give it your all. And to be honest, I don't think the Nets are capable of giving it their all without Michael Porter Jr. This team just deflates. The Nets have not won a game this year that Michael Porter Jr. did not start and play in. So there you go. If it doesn't get more clear than that, I don't know when it gets clearer. Michael Porter Jr. is this team's only offense. You can't run a play-in squad through one guy and no bench. And you certainly cannot do so when the guy doesn't even know if he's going to be here in 2 months. Hit like, hit subscribe if you're tuned in with us live. More importantly, get us rolling over in the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts. Throw those down there. Jonathan wins today's early bird trophy. We'll get into all he and the rest of you guys have to say in just a couple of minutes. Let's keep it rolling and move on to the game in Washington. That was last night. That was Friday night. Again, a very slow start for Brooklyn. No Michael Porter Jr., but added on no Cam Thomas. So there go your 2 best scorers instead of just your best scorer and 2 role players. You got him, you got Gioman back, but losing Cam Thomas, who stepped up and gave you 20 against Houston, meant there was really going to be no offense. So for the second straight night, the Nets were held under 100 points and gave up 120 and 119 respectively, so outscored by 40 plus in the 2 games back-to-back. No MPJ, no Claxton, or rather no Cam Thomas. Here's where things really, really get interesting to me and where I learn a lot about this team and what they mean. The Nets went 6 of 29 shooting from 3. But this is what I want to get into. This was the Brooklyn Nets shooting chart. Let's see if I can find a good angle. That's not good. This is fine. Let's go with this. This was the Brooklyn Nets shooting chart on the night. No, not that. This was the Brooklyn Nets shooting chart. Here we go. Notice how everything is sprayed out from beyond the arc or touching the paint. I count 1, 2, 3 shots that weren't 3-pointers or layups. I count 3 shots. This team has no rhythm, no originality, and it's the exact same thing when you don't have an MPJ or an Claxton. And I understand that the NBA is developing into a league that is centered completely around the three ball. It makes sense mathematically. The more threes you take, the higher chance you get of more points, the better your chances of winning. But this, where there's no mid ranges, not even taken, not even missed, you're just not shooting between the restricted area and the 3-point line. It's ridiculous how little this team can come up with on offense when you don't have Michael Porter Jr. out there hitting every buzzer-beating shot that bails you out of a bad possession, because it has happened a lot this year. So whether it's guys need to get more aggressive and fend off their defender and, I don't know, dribble past somebody, but this cannot happen. And these are all top of the key threes. There's one corner three. It's all wing and top of the key. And again, the paint. So when you're not making mid-range shots, I mean, couldn't be easier for Washington to defend. They know what you're going to do every time. They've already figured this out at the end of the first quarter. They were playing laid-back defense for 3 quarters. And frankly, I don't blame them, because they were up 13 after 1. And it was clear the Nets had no heart and frankly didn't want to be there. I get it. Second night of the back-to-back suck. But it's not going to change. We're not just going to protest back-to-backs to the league by not trying. That's not how that works. So we'll see. I expect it to get better. Michael Porter Jr. is listed as probable tomorrow against his former team, the Denver Nuggets. He was out these last 2 games with an illness. Cam Thomas out against the Wizards for load management, meaning they really didn't want to win. And now I don't think there is a route where you can make the case that this team should actively be pushing to be a play-in team. I think that time has exhausted itself. It's out the window. I think the tank is set in stone. It's concrete at this point. Once more, if you do not have any depth, if you cannot score without one guy doing it all for you, how do you expect to come close to sniffing postseason competition? You rode high in December. You beat a couple bad teams to start. You rolled on that momentum and kept it going for the rest of the month. You beat some much better teams down the line. The Raptors, who have been struggling of late. You beat the Sixers. You beat the T-Wolves, which was the most impressive one to me. So, yeah, you played a really, really good December. And fans thought this team was much more than they actually are. The first 2 games in January, I have seen enough. I would listen to talks of going to the playoffs on December 31st. Actually, probably before that. Because when you lost, to Golden State, I was probably starting my shift. But if you talked to me immediately after the T-Wolves game, I would have listened to you. At this point in the season, I cannot seriously listen to people saying, this team's got to go all in. Let's be real. What good does that do to a franchise? A franchise that does not own their own rights to their pick in 2027. This is an all or nothing year in terms of the draft for the Brooklyn Nets. They don't have another safety valve. You're not going to give up 3 more first-round picks, 2 more first-round picks, like what you had to do to get your Yegor Gioman pick back, just because you decided it would be fun to try your luck with the play-in. You ended up with the 14th pick, and you're picking a sophomore that doesn't look good and is not something to build around in the future. Can't happen. It cannot happen. Once more, I do not root for my teams to lose, but you have to be strategic and set yourselves up to lose. No, that does not mean be uncompetitive on a night in, night out basis. That's never what tanking should mean. Tanking doesn't mean you have to let the Rockets come into your building and beat you 120 to 96. Tanking does not mean you need to lose by 24 to make sure everybody knows. Everybody should know we should be losing by 50 a night just to make sure. Don't want it to be close. That's not what tanking means. Please keep it competitive. By all means, we will be rooting for that as Brooklyn Nets fans. Do not try to add to this roster. Do not go out there in January, in early February, and make trades that will benefit this roster. You are doing yourself, Sean Marks, and this franchise a disservice. And I sure hope that the Tsai family recognizes that if you do that, your time serving this team is over. There shouldn't be a second thought. If this Nets team misses out on a top 10 pick, I think you can say goodbye to Sean Marks. Unless they have great odds and they get screwed out of it, which you can't. I think you gotta say bye to Sean Marks. We'll cross that bridge when they come to it, though. As the experts say, this team cannot play without a number one scorer. God forbid Michael Porter Jr. gets injured post-trade deadline. The Nets have gone all in and this guy gets hurt. I mean, see you later. They might not win another game this year, but you go all in to try and be the 9 seed. All right, that makes sense, people. For the Pro Tank crowd in the house, I know you are there. Just wait, I got some very, very good news for you. With the loss to Washington last night, the Nets have slotted themselves in sole possession of 5th place in the race to the bottom. They are a game behind the Wizards, who have won 6 of their last 10. They're the hottest bottom of the barrel team. So Washington's currently at 4th. The Nets are only 1 win behind them. Remember, the Nets have played the least amount of games in the entire NBA. So I don't like to look at the loss column. I like to look at the wins column, because wins are also going to come far less often than losses are. So it's just easier to keep track of it that way. Nets are 1 loss outside of Washington. The Nets are 2 losses out of being tied for 2nd in the lottery odds with the Atlanta Hawks, who own New Orleans' pick. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. You didn't think it was possible. And bottom of the barrel teams have been doing well. Utah is up to 12 wins. Los Angeles is up to 12 wins. Good. They need to keep winning. I don't want the Thunder to get back into the lottery. Milwaukee's been winning. Memphis has been winning. So that means right now the Brooklyn Nets are 2 wins away from being tied for the number 2 lottery odds. And I know there are a lot of Nets fans that would love nothing more. There's no better New Year's resolution for those fans than to just keep increasing the odds. And to be honest, I do not blame you. All right, hit like, hit subscribe, continue to keep questions, comments, thoughts flowing. Glad we got a couple of you guys in the building engaging in some dialogue. Keep it rolling over there. Much love to you all. Back in Brooklyn, baby. Boy, does it feel good. All right, that's what I got on my end. Let's hear what you guys have to say. Head over to the chat. Let's start up top with Jonathan, who comes in and says, some people may be upset at the results, but this is the business side of protecting our lottery and allowing our rookies to grow under their games in high rules. That's the thing about the Houston game, and I kind of want to touch on this quickly. I agree. The rookies are very, very important. Let me get this comment pulled back up. The rookies are very, very important, even in a season where you don't want to win. You need to see growth. You need to see development. That's the bottom line. But in that Houston game, the rookies played terrible. Terrible. And you can see, I didn't pull this up yet. You can see, this is from the game against the Wizards. The Nets didn't have a clear score, but Drake Powell played really, really well. Ignore the plus minus because the team overall was terrible. 14 points on 5 of 6 shooting was good. I saw some very strong takes to the hoop by him. He played well. I have nothing to complain with how he played. But let's look at some of the other guys. 3 of 12 from the field for Yegor. That's not going to cut it. 4 of 10, 0 of 2 from 3 for Danny Wolf. He's fallen off. He's really fallen off. Noah Clowney is still a very young guy. 2 of 13 from the field for him. Traore played well, 4 of 7, 12 points. Traore and Powell played really well. But Yegor and Danny, the efficiencies just keep slipping with those two. They just keep slipping, and none of the rookies, Yegor didn't play, but none of the 3 rookies that were up have played. I wonder if it's time to call the man, the myth, the legend, Ben Saroff, and get him back up from Long Island. The Nets reacclimated him but didn't play him a week and a half ago. Who does that help? I have no idea. Gets an extra bus trip or 2 to the Barclays Center. I guess that's the benefit of that. But I'd like to see Ben Saroff get back up and play. I guess if you're certain it helps his development down on Long Island, sure, I'm fine with it. But I mean, let's go. The efficiencies from Yegor are slipping. Coach Jordy Fernandez has already threatened to bench him once in this season. He promptly responded with the best performance of his season, so maybe a little encouragement there could help. Danny Wolf, same thing. Remember back to the beginning of December when Danny Wolf burst onto the scene and scored like 100 points in 5 games. It was like this whole crazy thing. And that's not the same player that we're watching right now. It cannot be. It cannot be. Whether MPJ and Clax are here or traded, they did their jobs and built their trade values up. And hopefully soon the Nets get involved in some trade deadline deals. No deal has been done in the NBA, so I'm not exactly concerned that the Nets aren't like getting ahead of this from everybody else. Since nobody's really trading right now, I'm not shocked that the Nets aren't either. But yeah, as the days goes on, I don't hope for this. I think it's better to trade Clax in the offseason. I've said this before. You can start a bidding war. You can get teams that really need a center and be able to pick up contracts in return. And then you can also go out in free agency and immediately replace that body with a strong free agent center. It just makes more sense to trade him in the offseason. But just like any Nets player on this roster, you get a good enough package, you should be picking up the phone. You should be thinking about it. MPJ, as the days goes on, I mean, I will firmly hold my ground that I believe he should stay on this team. 2 first-round picks, I'm not budging. 3, I'm not budging. 4 and 5 is where you perk my ears because then you're at a situation where you're like the Oklahoma City Thunder where you could truly build a foundation and just keep replenishing with big picks. 4 or 5, I'm hearing deals on, like Mikal Bridges level deals. I'm certainly talking 2 or 3 first-round picks. I'll tell you, you're out of your mind. I want to build around this guy. Let's keep it moving. Wilson and Martin's non-guaranteed contracts have to either be guaranteed this Wednesday or possibly moved. Should we finally let them go or flip them for a protected second? I don't care, I guess, if the options are cut or flip. Probably flip, but once more, what do you want these seconds for? Who the hell is trading picks for Tyrese Martin? I don't know anybody that is trading picks for Tyrese Martin, but please, by all means, get this guy as far away from the rookies as possible. He might just be making them worse. Watching him play is an eyesore. I don't want to see the guy again. I remember being in games where he started and I was lost out of my mind. He was just as lost, playing 25 plus minutes and not scoring and going 0 of 8 from the field. When you get Tyrese Martin off this roster, please make sure to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. I don't want anything to do with that guy. So I don't really care how you do it. I'm not going to be upset if they don't get an extra second round pick. You have 19 coming up. Best you can probably do is package 6 of those for 1 mid first round pick will probably be your best bet on what to do with those. I don't know if there's a team that wants to do that, though, who just wants 6 second-round picks lying around. We'll see. We will certainly see. Still a lot to be determined. Still a lot to be determined. Daron is a mixed bag this season where he's had dominant performance against bad teams, some inconsistent games. Do you see Sharp getting moved by the deadline? Here's another one of those inconsistent games. 6 of 12 from the field. 14 points, though 9 rebounds. I have no problems with that game. 14 and 9 and 30 is not bad. You wonder about the efficiency dip because there are the nights where he goes 6 of 6 and nights where he goes 6 of 12. It's just like, dude, what shots are you creating that aren't falling for you one night compared to the next? I wouldn't be as curious if he just went 6 of 9 every night. But sometimes he'll stay in his lane, only hit the shots he knows he hits. And other times he'll go on this wild goose chase looking for 3-pointers. 4-4 from the line is promising, though. Or 2 of 3, rather. I was looking at Terrence Mann. 2 of 3 from the line is not bad for day either. I would certainly be listening to calls for Sharp. He's a backup center that's replaceable. You can get an only rebounding guy. You can try and develop Wolf into that role if you would like to. I'm certainly hearing calls on Daron Sharp. I think he's great. I think he's a good culture guy. Don't need him around. I wouldn't be heartbroken if he wasn't around for the long haul. The Cam Thomas situation is awkward and toxic. By the day in which Jordy keeps challenging him on defense and CT seems distracted, is a trade coming up as soon as this week. Let me try and pull this up via Eric Slater's Twitter. So, Cam Thomas, to your point here, was talking about, or Eric Slater asked him if it was frustrating coming off the bench during a loss where he thought the team could have played better. And Cam Thomas's response was no comment. No comment. Is that surprising from a guy who spent the entire offseason sitting out because he wanted a no trade clause to try and screw over this franchise? It tells me exactly where his mindset is at and was a clear link to the disastrous negotiations that took place over the summer. And no comment spoke louder than any words could have at that point. And I finished the tweet off by saying, Nets are going to get him out of Brooklyn as soon as possible. Because I don't think that's what the Nets want. That cannot be what a young environment trying to train up rookies to get to a high level wants. Is a guy that's going to come in here, be toxic, not okay with coming off the bench in a system that he's not owed anything. He's not owed any minutes. But you want to come in here and be toxic in a locker room that already has enough losing going on. Because your $6 million contract, you're worried about your future after you hightail your way out of here as soon as humanly possible because we know you don't want to stay. So I don't understand. Why would the Nets want to keep this guy around? Here's another guy, him and Tyrese Morton. Package them up and send them as far away as possible. And I got good news, Nets fans. I couldn't think of a team further away from Brooklyn than the LA Clippers. Send these two dudes out. I don't want them to do anything more in an Nets jersey. I have seen more than enough. You can trade Cam Thomas while stock is high. He's had a 30-point game since he's coming back. 2 20-point games. Just get him out. Just get him out. He's a cancer in the locker room at this point. It is disastrous. Is a trade coming as soon as this week? I can't directly answer that because I'm not an insider, but if I could, oh boy, would I hope my answer would be yes. I would hope. Keep it pumping. Questions, comments, thoughts. We'll continue to get into this and more. AG7503, Dioma needs to drive to the rim more. Absolutely. It's about the aggressiveness and the confidence for him. We saw this early into his NBA career where I think he broke a record for rookies in terms of just attempting threes in your first 25 shots. His first 25 attempts at the NBA level were all threes. Because he just had no confidence that he could compete down low against NBA competition. That'll continue to rise as he gets bigger physically, as he gets bigger experience-wise in the league, as he sticks around for longer, and as he really figures out who he is as a player. 4 months into his NBA career, am I pissed that he's not able to drive to the rim with confidence? No, but it's certainly something that he could work on in the new year. We'll throw out a video about New Year's grades probably sometime this week, 2025 grades, and I'm looking forward to that. Connor and I should be on that, but I think Yegor Gioman has done enough for me to the point where I'm not mad at his production so far in his NBA career. Just a sneak peek, though. Make sure you keep tuning in for more coverage there. NAG comes in again. Says, just got to hope for a top 3 pick, Josh. Absolutely. Talked about the Tankathon odds. Nets 2 games out of that number 2 overall pick. 2 wins out of that number 1 overall pick. And remember, a very, very stacked class. 3 superstars at the top, but it's very, very deep. You have a Met after that. You have a ton of guys coming out later into that draft who will also still be beasts. BC in the building, as per usual. How we doing, BC? AG said they were never going all in. That's absolutely the hope, because wouldn't be able to handle it if the Nets were. Let's fly through these last couple. Happy Tankuary, Josh. We went from Merry Tankmas in December to Tankuary. I love it. Let's start brainstorming in February, because first week of February is the trade deadline. That's where all hectic is going to break loose. So you have Tankuary now. Could just go Tankuary again, but that'd be pretty boring. Febutank, something like that. Febulose. Let's go. Let's freaking go. All right. That's all I got for you, baby. Solidified Tank is in the building. No more dreams of a plan from Nets World as they get blown out in their first 2 games of 2026. All right. Brooklyn's back in action tomorrow afternoon, 3:30 p.m. at home against the Nuggets. That's all I got for you guys. We appreciate you all tuning in. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Significantly helps our channel, pumps our content out to fellow Nets fans, and continues to grow our community. 550, 560 and climbing. I'm also 1 follower away on Twitter from 800. So if you wouldn't mind, quick shameless plug, head over there at Josh Wolliver. Telling you guys know me there. Love interacting with all of you there. That's all I got for today. I'm Josh Wolliver for the Brooklyn Boys Show. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Have yourself a great, safe night. And as always, baby, let's go Nets. Good night, everybody. Stay safe.